Hello everybody. How are you guys today? Today we're doing some watermelon. We're celebrating summer. I'm ready for summer. I'm ready for my pool. I'm ready for hot days. Not humid, but hot. I'm ready to read and lay out. That's what I'm ready for. So, we're going to do some watermelon today, and we're going to celebrate Memorial Day on Thursday at 2 o'clock, all right? So this will be Thursday. This is today. Let's do some quick announcements. So, one, I wanted you to know that I'm doing private art classes for $25, or you can buy 4 for $80. And if you're interested, just direct message me and we'll go from there. I also want you to know that on Thursday at 5 o'clock I have a pineapple class coming up. So if you're interested on that, you can text me, or you can direct message me, or you can go to bit.ly pineapple class, and that'll take you to that link. And this is with the Basement Marketplace here in town. And other than that, that is what's happening this week. Again, for people, this is what we're doing today. It is our watermelon is what we're going to do, sweet watermelon. And then on Thursday we are actually going to do a Memorial Day thing. All right, so let's talk about supplies. You will need a pencil, and if you are, well, chances are you're going to want to erase. So make sure that your eraser is really good. Also, I want you to know you should write really lightly with a pencil, okay? So when you erase it, it comes up. And I also have, this is called a kneaded eraser, kneaded. Like kneading of dough, that kind of thing. And it is my favorite eraser. So it doesn't make all that mess that these make. So you can think about that, FYI. And today I'm going to use my Crayola set. I am so impressed with this Crayola set, people. I cannot believe how much I love them. So that is what I'm going to use today. We don't have to even use a whole lot of colors today. So that is also something cool. All right, let's talk about some paper. I am going to use watercolor paper because it's my favorite. It is 140-pound paper. That is something that you need to pay attention to when you're buying paper. Like, what is the poundages? So the poundages, the weight of this is 140 pound, and it is really, really thick and holds up really well with water. This is from Michael's, and I bought 3 of these for $5 each. So that is a great deal for 24 sheets. So to get even more, what I do is I cut it in half. So this is one of those pieces of paper cut in half, and I use those for this. I love that. Hi Anna, how are you? We're going to make some watermelon today with our watercolors. That's a lot of water. Okay, so we are going to be using this piece of paper. This is half of a 9x12, and this is what we are going to make today, some watermelon. And are you all ready? Oh, I guess I should say you need a paintbrush, that's for sure. And you need some clean water, which I do not have anywhere near me. That's fun. That's fun when the teacher doesn't know where all of her clean stuff is. Not prepared, not prepared. You will also need a paper towel. And I'm going to keep this paper towel down here so we can work with that. Especially when you're going from complementary colors. When you go from one color to the other color, it can create mud really fast. So you want to make sure that you have a paper towel and some clean water. So let us start drawing this watermelon, okay? So here we go. So I normally start with a tic-tac-toe board, but we're not going to do that today. We are just going to start with the watermelon itself. So I want you to come down here, and I'm going to give me some room. You see how I have some room right here to write with? So I think that's about 2 fingers, right? So I'm going to come up 2 fingers. Now if you're a kiddo, you might want to come up a little bit more. That's okay. So I'm going to draw this straight line all the way across here. You want to do it really lightly. Now, I have it really dark because I want you all to see it, okay? But I want you to make it really light. And another way for me to actually figure out how to make this round edge for the, you know, a watermelon is nice and round. Did you know that the sweeter ones are the ones that actually look like little, almost balls, like circles? Yep, there's a whole art to that. So I am going to come over here and I'm going to put a dot right there in the middle of this line. Okay? And now I'm going to use my finger to practice. You see, I'm practicing this arch right here, this arc. And I'm going to do it really lightly. And I'm only going to go from here to here. Okay? So I'm going to take this and I might do it several times. You see that? I did it several times. Now, if you have trouble going from this way, a good thing that you might want to do is rotate your piece of paper. And now you can see if you can't duplicate it. I think I'm going to just continue like this. And I'm practicing, so I'm ghosting. That's what I call it, ghosting and practicing. What this does is it's training your muscles how to do this, right? So when you go to do it with your pencil, it's very close. So here we go. That's what I've done. So there's my watermelon. There's my watermelon slice, right? I have to say, I think it's really fun to eat a slice of watermelon. But these things, they get so messy when you eat a slice like this, right? So messy. All right. So I have my watermelon right here. And I think I am going to continue to draw it. So there's not much to a watermelon. All you've got to do is figure out how big of skin does your watermelon have. Now, I don't know about you, but when I cut into a watermelon or when I eat watermelon, I don't like to have a whole lot of green part, right? Because that green part, hi Linda, that green part is kind of sour and just, right? So I'm going to not have a whole lot of it, okay? So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to come in and I'm going to do the same thing as I did. And I'm going to come in just like that. Just to draw that. Now, you want that real nice and light. And you're going to leave it. You don't have to do all of these little dots or the seeds. We can do that a little bit later. All right. Now we've got to do our You're So Sweet, right? So let's talk about actually when we do writing, okay? One of the things that we do is we look at the shapes of these words. Now, I'm going to do this all in caps. This is a little bit easier. And I also, one of the big things I like to do is I like to count how many letters they are. But because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Because they're the same, it's much easier for us to do this. So what I'm going to do down here is I'm going to make a guideline just like that to say this is my line that I'm going to write on. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide it in half because we know that it's 5 and 5 and SO is right in the middle, right? So I'm coming down here and I'm looking at, this is going to be my center. So S and O are going to be on these two sides. Now, one of the things that I can do here is I can go ahead and draw little boxes here, and that's where my S and O is going to go, all right? So then the next thing I can do is I can come in here and I can go, okay, I have to fit sweet in this one, and I have to fit your in this one. That means that these two right here are spaces. Now, did y'all see that? So I have one big box. This is going to be where your is. Then I have a space. Then I have a S, an O, and then I have a space, and then I have sweet right there. Okay, so a lot of things, I sometimes have problems going from you're so sweet all in one time. So I actually normally start in the middle and I work my way one way or the other. So I'm going to come in here and I'm just going to lightly, and I'm telling you lightly, one of the things that you do when you're painting lettering, you need to give yourself space, because when you go in with a paintbrush, you have to control where all of that paint goes, right? So you see how much space I have between my letters and on the top and the bottom. That's kind of important. So I'm going to add nothing to there, and I'm going to do sweet. Now, one of the things I know about sweet is that it's got a W. W's are really, really wide. They're always wide. Doesn't matter. So one of the things I like to do is come in here and go, all right, what's the middle? E is the middle here, right? So if I come in and I divide this shape right here into the half, that's where my middle of my E needs to be. So what if I come in here and I add my E, and then I'm going to add another E, and then I'm going to add my T. That kind of gives me a little bit of, this is how big my letters have to be, right? So now when I come over here, I know that S and W need to go right here. So I'm going to just make this little line here. That's going to be where my S is. There's my S. And then here is my W. Now, do you see how mine is not perfect? How my W's kind of messed up, my E's kind of messed up. One of the things I do next, this is why I always use an eraser when I'm lettering. And I always write really light, because when you go to erase things, you want to make sure that you can move them around and that kind of stuff. Because when you're lettering, spacing really does matter. But do you see how these two letters are pretty close to each other? That could be a problem for me when I actually go in with my paintbrush. So I think what I'm going to do is move this E just a little bit to the right. So I'm going to come in and I moved my E just a little bit. Now, I'm going to go to the your next. Okay, your has a little apostrophe in it, and you kind of need to think about that, all right? It's not necessarily a full-on space, but it is a little one, right? So we've got to think about that when we do this. So if you wanted to, you could think about this in shapes. Look at this. The U can be a rectangle, and then there's a space, and then there's a little square for the RE, right? Let me show you. So one of the things I'm going to do here is I'm going to draw. Here's my rectangle. There's my rectangle. Let's do that. Then here's my little space, and here is my RE. All right. And do you see how now I've divided up my spacing? Now all I need to know is that this is going to be RE, so I could go ahead and I could add a little line right there. That's my apostrophe. If I wanted to go ahead and add an apostrophe, look at that. That helps me, like, in my brain realize what I'm doing. Now I've got to get 3 letters in this spot right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and I'm going to divide it into thirds. So Y-O-U. So Y. And you can go ahead and just write it you don't have to do block letters just here, because your paintbrush is going to do that for you. So you don't have to really work on it that much. And then my R. And then my E. And then I erase all of my guidelines just like that. Now, one of the things I like about my kneaded eraser, do you see how I can get it really nice and thin so it fits right in between there? Sometimes you can't do that with these things, right? So I like my kneaded eraser a lot. Here I go. Right in there like that. Okay. Now, so you can't see a whole lot that I did, so I'm just going to go in and add just lightly, define that just a little bit more. All right. So now we have a very good start to our letters. Are we ready to start painting? Okay, now remember, I like to do things where we do one whole layer and then we work our way back up, right? So I need you all to realize that that's one of the reasons why we have this You're So Sweet, because we're going to learn something about wet on wet. So let's get activated our watercolors next. So I've got my watercolors here, my Crayola set. I just love this Crayola set. I can't believe I'm saying that. I've been years doing this and never really tried it until this summer or during COVID. All right, one of the things I like to do is I like to take some water and I like to spray it to activate it. If you don't have water spray bottle, one of the things that you can do is you can put your paintbrush in water, and then you take your paper towel, you put your paintbrush with water in it on your color, and then you wipe it off. Then you put it in the water, then you go to the next one, and then you wipe it off. The key is that you always go to your paper towel and you wash your brush off there first. You want to keep your water clean and you want to keep your brush clean. So you don't want to mix these colors. So that's why you always use your watercolor. The key here, like, I challenge you to make your water as clean as possible. Now, I started with dirty water, so I can't really even play that game. Yeah, I know, teachers, that's not fair. It happens. Okay, so here we go. Now, we're going to learn wet on wet. One of the things I want us to do, wet on wet, means you take wet paint on a wet piece of paper. So I take only water. I have a very clean brush and I have a water. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to start with this red part. So I am putting a lot of water. You can't even tell what I'm doing, but I'm painting with water right now. And I'm coming in and I'm just adding water to this whole spot that the red part's going to be. Okay? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in with some red. So I have red on my paintbrush. Okay? I'm getting a little dip, and then I'm coming in and I'm putting it along this edge. Okay? And I'm making it go all the way around. All right. Then I'm going to come in and I'm going to get some water and I'm going to pull it. You see how I'm pulling it? I'm pulling it to the center of the watermelon. And it's going to make a nice light pink as we go along. You're going to see that when you started with your red, it's a little bit brighter than it is over here. So one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to come in, get a little bit of red, and I'm going to start here and pull it up. Get some water on my brush and pull it. And I'm pulling it in. Now, I want you to know that, like, I almost want you to, like, put your finger in the middle. And then I want you to go, I'm pulling it to the finger. I'm pulling it like that. Because if you keep going in an odd direction, it's not going to look like a watermelon. Okay, so I'm going to stop right there for the watermelon part. All right, we need to let it, that was painting wet on wet. Wet paper with wet paint. Now we're going to do the same thing to this green part. The key to the green part, though, is that it cannot touch the red. All right, so be very, very careful when you are coming in with your water, and you're going to start right here, and you're going to be very careful that these two things do not touch. Like the water does not touch the red. And you're going to do the whole thing that way, all the way around. I love watermelon. It's so sweet. We used to, as kids, my parents had a pool, and we would eat the watermelon, and then we would throw the seeds and the watermelon out of the pool that we had down back. It was fun. We never really made watermelon, though. It never really grew. Okay, so I have a wet spot all the way. I've painted a wet spot all the way. You see that glisten right there? Now I'm going to go get me some green. And I'm going to do the same. I'm going to come in here. And it's a gentle, I'm putting a little bit of water in here. And I am kind of rubbing it in a little bit. But I'm being real careful that it doesn't touch my red. And if it does, it's sort of okay. I want you to try really hard not to. All right, and I'm coming in and I just do that right there. Now, do you see it's very light? We're doing that on purpose. It's okay that it's light. We do this in layers, remember? Tara, if you're still watching, hey girl. You ate some watermelon at my house, I think. All right, so now we're going to let this rest. And one of the things that we're going to do next is we're going to do You're So Sweet. Now, do you think I can do this with this big brush? We're going to try. I just want to see. So I come in, I've done this, and I'm going to just have, it's a damp brush. It's not a whole lot of water. So I'm dipping my black into the water just a little bit. And if I feel like I have too much, I'm going to bring it over here on the palette like that. Okay, so I have my palette. And now I'm going to come in, and I always start from left to right when I'm writing with paint because you don't want your finger in it or your hand. So I'm coming in, and I'm using just the tip. And do you see how I'm doing nice little small strokes? I'm not doing it like I'm writing it. You can, because you get these really nice thick lines, but if you aren't used to those, it can be really hard to do. So I think about this kind of like I'm painting a shape, not a letter. I'm painting in the lines. And do you see how it's not really that dark yet? It's just a little bit. We're going to do this in layers. And do you see how I'm doing it in little short little burst? Do you see how when I do the O, I do one down, and then I come up to the top, and then I do the other down. Same thing for the S. I kind of come in, and then I do little small strokes. Come in. Now my W is nice and easy. Nice straight strokes. Same thing for my E, really. And you see, I don't really move my paintbrush all that much. I keep it in the same position. All right. And now I've got You're So Sweet. Are y'all with me? Did y'all do that fast? Probably not. That's okay though, right? When you watch the replay, you can pause me. So I want you to see that we have some bleeding over here. But do you know what I love about this bleeding? Is that when you actually look at a watermelon, sometimes that actually happens. So I'm completely okay with it, with it happening every once in a while. Just not all the time. All right, so this is not completely dry, but it's better than it was. So I don't have a lot of water on my brush, and I'm going to go into red again. I'm going to come back in the same place, and this time I'm going to do just a little bit like that, and I'm going to pull it, and I'm going to remember I'm kind of going like this. You got to think of it as a pie. And then I'm going to come in and do it again. And I'm going to get a little bit more water that time. And I'm going to do nice strokes like that all the way. You're thinking, this looks like it's so weird. Stay with me though. And I'm going to go all the way around. With it. Now this part right here is just a little bit more wet, so it's blending more. That's okay. Okay, now I've got it all like this. This is getting a little too thick for me, so I'm going to get me some water on my brush. And I'm going to kind of come in here and I'm spreading it out. Just like that. I want this area in here to be very light. You know how watermelon is kind of light in that center part? That's what we're kind of going for. So what I'm doing there to make that light is I've made it wet. Then I took my brush and I wiped it off on my paper towel, and I'm kind of like just borrowing. I'm kind of scooping it up. Okay, I'm going to leave this the way it is right now, and I'm going to come and work back on the green. All right, so I'm going to get some green on my brush again, not as much water as I had last time, and I'm going to come in and I'm just going to I am kind of coming out. I'm doing it really lightly though, so you see I start with it a lot of color at the beginning, and then I lighten up as I go out. Does that make sense? So I'm pushing down, and then by the time I'm to the center part where the red is, I am lightly doing it. Like I'm barely touching it. Like the pressure is very small. And I'm kind of going all the way in like that. Okay. You want the edge to be darker than where it goes to the center. It always has this white edge almost to it. Okay, guess what we do next? We're going to come back down here to You're So Sweet. Okay, you want a very dry brush. So I'm wiping my brush off really nice there. And now I'm going to come back to my black. I don't have a lot of water on my brush, just mostly black. And I'm going to come in and I'm going to do it again. I have a little bit of water on my brush, not much though. And I'm going to do it nice and light. Because the more layers you do in watercolor, right, the brighter it becomes. You see, it's not perfect. It's not even in the same area sometimes. I'm just kind of writing it over and over. And do you see how every time I write it, gets a little thicker, gets a little bit darker, and it's just another layer. That's what we're going for. Just more and more layers. Watercolors is really about layers. They're all transparent. Transparent means that you can see through them, right? If you were dealing with acrylic paint, it would be more opaque. Opaque means you cannot see through it. It's very solid. It's thick, dense. And that watercolors are very light, airy, and transparent. So there's my sweet. And I always wipe my brush off on my paper towel. You see that? Okay. Does anyone know what we're doing next? We're going back to the red. Okay. So one of the things that we do now is we're going to go back and we're going to do it the same lines coming inward, except we're not going to go as down as much. We're going to do a little shorter ones. So I've got some red on my brush, and I'm going to come in and I'm going to do short one, long one, 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 short one, long one. Just kind of doing it. You want to make sure you're doing it like a pie where it's coming in. It starts right back there at the back. It's dark and then it lightens up as it goes. Okay. Now, I like that. One of the things that I can do, if this is looking too striped for you, you can get some water on your brush and you can come up here where you've got this little area here and you can kind of mix it in with some water. You don't want to do too much of this though, okay? Because you don't want it to bleed into that green just yet. But it is making it a little bit less perfect, right? And I kind of, every once in a while, I'm pulling it. Okay, not bad. It's looking like a watermelon to me. So guess what we're going next? Green. This time, I'm gonna go, I have a different green, so I'm gonna go to the different green. I have two greens on this palette, so I'm gonna go to a different green, and I'm gonna do the same thing that I've been doing. You see how when I added that dark green, ooh, right? It looks like the green of a watermelon skin, right? Because they have those lime green and those dark greens. It's fun. And because it's sort of wet, it's sort of blending. Now, over here it's not though, right? Did you see that? It's very straight line. So one of the ways that I can do is I can wipe it off on my paper towel, and I can get some more water on my brush, and I can just go in this little area right here where, I can go in that little area there to lighten that up and to actually get that more lighter, right? Blended a little bit better. All right, this is looking really good. Really, really good. Are you all excited? I'm excited. Can you tell? All right, I think I'm going to leave your sweet as is right now. But I'm going to go back into this right here. And one of the things that I'm going to do is, one of the things that makes this a little bit more interesting is that I've added a few more colors to this. I've added some orange in there. So I'm going to come in and I've got a red-orange right next to my red. And I'm going to come in because it's still wet. And I'm just going to add a few little, just a little in here. And it may blend, but it's adding just a little bit more texture to it. And kind of adding a little bit more light and darks to it. And it's kind of adding. Now you might need to come in here on this side and add just a tiny bit more farther down, but really it needs to be pretty white down here. It really gets light. That means no paint. Remember, watercolor you can't make white. You have to leave it alone. You have to use the paper. So that's one of the things. Now, I have done that, and I'm going to leave that alone, and I'm going to come back up to the green just a little bit. I'm going to come back with the dark green that I was using, and I'm going to come in and do it again. I'm doing more and more layers. And I may not go all the way around this time, just in places. You know how they always have those white and green and yellow parts? Looking good. Another thing that you can do is you can add some yellow to this part, right? Now, I know we don't want yellow watermelons, but watch when I do the yellow to this. I start at this part next to the red, and I kind of blend up. And do you see how that adds just a little bit? Okay, and be careful when you go back to get more that you wipe your brush off, and you don't contaminate your yellow. Now, I'm being real careful about this little edge here. I am touching the red now, but really lightly. It's gonna be okay if it blends. So right now, I've got a few places blending, and I may want a little bit more. So I'm gonna come in here, just do a few of them. Right? Because there's not normally a white halo all around it, but y'all see that? There's some real pretty bleeding going on there, or blending, bleeding, whichever one you want. Okay, I'm coming back down to my red. I'm going to go back to, what am I going to do? I'm going to go back to my dark red right now. Yeah. And I'm going to add a few places. Now this part right here for me is getting really dark or really wet. So one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to go get me some brown. I know. Can you believe I'm doing brown? Do you see when I added that brown into that, how dark that got right there? But because it's wet, it's not like ugly brown. It's becoming red brown. It's making my reds just a little bit darker. And you see how every once in a while I'm pulling it out. And I'm going to turn off this light. You see how different that looks? Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come back down here to You're So Sweet one more time. And I'm going to get me some black again. And I'm going to just go ahead and add another layer to them. Just like that. All right. And we are almost done. I like to add, well, we're sort of almost done. You know me and all my little things that I like to do to it, right? I get to play next. But you got to make sure that it's almost dry. And I know that we don't have all that time to dry this. So I may cheat a little bit. But I want you. You could also do this So Sweet with a magic marker. But I really wanted you all to learn how to control your paint, right? Like this is a big thing where we actually control our stuff. So the thing that I'm going to do to let this dry a little bit more is I'm going to add some cute little dots to it. Because, you know, what's so great? I love watermelon. Let's do some watermelon dots. So I'm going to come in with some red, and I'm just going to add a few dots. And it's random. Don't think too much about it. It's a very small dot. And that's one layer of it. Next, I'm going to come in and I'm going to go get me some green because I'm doing watercolor. I'm doing watermelon. So watercolor, right? I can't talk today. So I'm going to do some green dots to this. And how fun does that look? Right? And I'm kind of excited. Thursday we're going to do a flag. I haven't done a watercolor flag in a long time. Now y'all see that I'm not doing anything to this bottom part right here. One of the things that I did was I added 2 lines. You can do whatever you want here. I think I'm going to do 2 lines, but this time I'm going to start with the green. And I'm just going to come in and I'm going to add a line. Now, do y'all see how it kind of got light in there and then it got darker, and that's okay. And then I'm going to do a red, being very careful that I don't have a lot of water on my brush. And I'm barely touching it, like I'm very slowly doing it. All right, we're very close to being done. So I'm going to touch this and see. Mine's still a little before you go to do seeds, it needs to be a lot drier, okay? So I'm coming in here and I'm going to hit it with this real quick. For example, this is called a Heat It tool by Ranger, and you can buy it at Hobby Lobby and or Michael's, or I think I bought this one off of Amazon. It's pretty hot, so I wouldn't do this with children too much. But what I like about it, rather than a hair dryer, is that it's not that loud. And it also doesn't blow things near as powerful as a hair dryer does. So that's why I like it. So here we go. I've got this almost dry, and now I'm going to add my seeds. Now, I don't know about you all, but I really like seedless watermelons. But seedless watermelons don't look near as good painted. Right? So we are going to fake it and we are going to add some seeds to this. Excuse me. Okay, here's the other thing that I want you to do. I don't think that we should, well, I don't like too many seeds. And I got to looking at this. Boy, this would be so annoying to eat, right? It has way too many seeds. So be careful about how many seeds you do. And the seed is literally just a, it's a little dot. Let's call it a little oval dot. It's 2 strokes. And you see I changed my direction. And you see they're not all in the same, what's the word? Ooh, do y'all see this one? Ooh, it's bleeding. Someone did not dry her paper well enough. All right. So here's how we're going to fix that. Y'all see that? I'm going to wipe off my brush completely. It's very dry. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here. Do you see when I added a dry brush how I'm literally taking some of that paint off of it? And I'm just putting on it, and I'm literally, it's a light touch, and I'm waiting for the brush to soak up some of that paint. And you see how that, now I'm telling you, looks like a mess. Y'all see that? It looks like a mess. But here's what I'm going to do. Wait for it to dry completely, and then I can come in with some red and maybe go on top of that, and maybe that'll be okay. But do you see how we did not draw these all out first? Because black always wins. It will paint over pretty much anything. So that's why we waited for the very last minute to do these black seeds. Now, I'm going to cheat just a little bit more. And I'm going to come in. Yeah, that's much better. Dry it one more time because I want you to see the last couple steps. All right. Got to dry these seeds. I got me some sunflower seeds today. I can't wait to have some sunflowers out in my backyard. Hubby doesn't know that that's happening. I can't wait to surprise. Yeah, he goes, yeah, I like to do that to him. Okay, so I have basically done this part, right? This looks pretty good. But you know me, I love to work on my Uniball Signo. So this is a Uniball Signo pen. It's a 207 Bold. It's my favorite pen, and I use it all the time. So what I like to do here is I don't hold it very like a normal person, and I scribble all the way around it. Okay. And where it's wet, it's skipping a little bit. And I also like to do little squiggles. You see that? Another thing that I like to do is I come in and I'm going to add just a little bit of outlines on these little seeds and stuff. Another thing about the seeds is that they have these little black things on top of them, so I'm going to add that. It's like a little line. I'm going to come in here with my words. I do like to do this with my words a lot. I like to outline my words. Even though I did this in black, something about a letter with an outline works really nice. So I'm coming in and I'm adding just a little bit of a blocky outline around these letters. Okay, now this is skipping quite a bit, so I'm either running out of ink or this is a lot wetter than I thought it was, which is possible. Okay, now I'm going, there we go, I've got that done, almost, right? You see, I'm not very neat about it. And you might want to be neat. That's okay. You can be neat. Add just a little bit. And you see how that popped that out? One of those things was, yeah, Desiree, we could have matching sunflowers. Okay, I do add this down here at the bottom to show that this is the end. I like to add my squiggles. Do you all see how every once in a while I added a streak down? You don't have to do that, but I like to add all kinds of texture to stuff. And really, it's not working too well because it's still wet, but it's not bad. And honestly, I'm looking at this one, and I still like this one better. You want to know why? Do y'all know? Can you tell? It's got more seeds in it. Could it really be that simple? Let's look. I'm going to add some more seeds. And you tell me. One of the other things it could be is that that might have more red in it. So I could come in here with some more red and add just a little bit. Now I'm being very careful here to not get into anything. If you're not comfortable with that, don't. Like, I'm being very careful not to go into a lot of my dry like I just did. But there we go. And you see how when I added those dry, now that was called dry paint, dry on dry, wet paint on dry. Okay, now that I like just a little bit better, and I think that's much funner. Funner, is that a word? And of course, sign your work and have some watermelon soon, people, and have a good rest of the day. Know that on Thursday we are going to do Home of the Brave. We're going to celebrate Memorial Day. So it will be there. It will be here at the same time, 2 o'clock. Now, I don't know if y'all can know this, but I'm cheating just a little bit. There's some white dots in this. Do y'all want to know how I do my white dots? I have something called a fine liner. You can buy these off of Amazon. You can tell it's really been used a lot. And one of the things that it does is it comes apart and it has a tip on it. And you put paint in it and it's a fine line. Now it has to be watered down paint and you have to like kind of play with. But do you see those little, how cool that is? Now, I just started adding some white spots to this because I thought it was fun. But do you see when we add these little white highlights to things? One, the texture it adds. And two, it just kind of makes it funner, right? And you could even come in here and add a few little highlights to this. And now you look like you have some bubble letters. All right. Have a fantastic rest of the day. And I'll see you Thursday. Anybody got any questions? I'll stay on for a little bit. And I'm trying, just so y'all can see, this is how little that is. So this fits in that little area right there. This fits in that little area. Whiteout does work, Desiree, but sometimes it soaks up the paint. So you can think that it's white, but in all, it ends up drying pink. Boy, someone needs some glasses. There you go. Another thing that I like to use, so this is regular, this is white paint in here. There's something called Dr. P.H. Martin's Bleed Proof White. I use this on my pet portraits, and it works really, really good. It's really, really thick and gross and stuff, but man, it does not do that weird white thing that I'm telling you about. Sometimes even this will do. If you have too much water in your paint, it will also do that. But those come in this, and then they come in a thing like this. All right, guys. I'll see you all on Thursday for Home of the Brave. We're going to have some fun. I'll talk to y'all later. Bye, guys.